Welcome to the GTN show. We are now less than a year away from the Paris Olympics, and we were certainly reminded of that this past weekend at a very exciting racing at the World Triathlon Grand Final. Some more Olympic slots were allotted and guaranteed, and for those nations that are yet to secure their places, the race to make it to Paris next year has just gone up another level.
Yep, and it's another week, and we have another athletics world record, and it's a big one this time, the women's marathon world record. Plus, we have the giveaway of our Wahoo Kickr Move, which we're going to announce the winner of today, plus a whole bunch of smiley photos of you guys post-race. Let's start the show. All right, let's start the show, as we always do, with React, some of the stuff we've noticed on the internet over the last week, and starting with this one from the Super League Triathlon. Now, the Malibu Super League leg is supposed to be happening this weekend, including the Malibu Triathlon, which Super League took over the running of recently. And the race is under a little bit of jeopardy, potentially. So it seems like there's a bit of an issue because there's been some flooding with the winter rains, and that often happens, apparently, there. It happens all the time. It's happened in the past. And they can solve the problem where it goes under a flyover by putting temporary ramps on. However, this year, they're not allowed to put temporary ramps up in that point because a tidewater goby fish, you know the type, right, Heather?
Of course, yeah. I've got a few of those at home.
The tidewater goby fish is apparently like a 2-inch long fish that is on the endangered species list, and they've made a habitat in the flooded underpass where they were going to put that bridge up, so they can't put the bridge up, which means they don't actually have a bike route at the moment. Now, they've appealed to the City Council to change the route. However, they're supposed to have 31 days notice for residents and businesses for any road closures or race routes, and obviously that 31 days is long since passed. So they've appealed. Today, at the time of filming, they are actually having a meeting about getting that sorted out. But at this point, it isn't yet sorted out, and without any clearance, they can't actually have the race. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, you guys will know, as like James said, but it would be quite a shame because it does raise a lot of money as well, and a big triathlon. Yeah. But anyway, moving on over to a few days ahead of the Berlin Marathon, we spotted these prototype Alpha 3s on the feet of Kipchoge, or they were rumoured to be going on the feet of Kipchoge. Fast forward a few days later, and they are the shoes he's wearing, crossing at the finish line at the Berlin Marathon to win his 5th title. I mean, just domination to another level. It wasn't as quick as last year, but I mean, 5 times in one race.
At the tender age of 38.
Yeah, I think that's the first time anyone has won that race 5 times.
Incredible. Yeah. Meanwhile, on the women's side, even bigger marathon news because the women's marathon world record was smashed. Not just broken, smashed. I mean, the marathon was held, the record was held by Bridget Koskei from 2019, and it was 2 hours 14 and 4 seconds. Tigist Assefa took over 2 minutes off that to knock it down to 2 hours 11:53, which is phenomenal how fast these women are running now.
And apparently she only started road running in 2018, and her marathon PB times have just knocked off at a ridiculous rate. Last year she won the Berlin Marathon at 2:15, and she's taken off another 4 minutes off her own time. So insane, very exciting. I mean, Berlin does always get the attention because it is known as that record-breaking course, and very exciting to see the marathon smashed again. There were a few comments, actually, James, underneath our video that went out yesterday, that we should maybe try and aim quite soon for the world record to try as a relay.
Well, we attempted the 5K world record, but before we even managed to put that video out, the 5,000 meter world record was broken. So we're just going to have to knock a minute or two off the world record before we even attempt it. Otherwise,
I think we might need a slightly bigger team to run that fast for a marathon.
I think we might, yeah.
Anyway.
Also, we got this one from Alistair Brownlee, who has said he is back to triathlon racing in October, which is pretty exciting news for everyone. He's obviously been out injured for a while and trying to get back on track. He has been doing some gravel races, and to good measure too, apparently. He's been really throwing down in those races. Maybe a future in gravel racing when he retires, but he is still racing triathlon, and apparently in October he'll be racing the Barcelona Triathlon, so we're looking out to see him coming back to form there, because obviously everyone wants to see Alistair Brownlee racing.
Yeah, exactly. Exciting news. Last week, we shared a post from Emma Pallant-Brown, who said she was rather disappointed in her performance at Challenge Samarkand, but couldn't put her finger on it and was wondering what was going on. Well, she's now got some answers. She says, and as a result, gutted to be pulling out of Barcelona Triathlon, so where we'll see Alistair racing, also Challenge Mallorca, but having not been able to train this week and on antibiotics, health first, I look forward to planning my next goal. So she's obviously had some sort of infection that she's had to take antibiotics for and giving her body time to repair, which is good. So hopefully you feel better soon, Emma.
And finally, we have this smiling photo from Leslie Patterson, the Hollywood screenwriter, who's also a triathlete. I don't know which order you put those these days. I think you got to put Hollywood screenwriter first. But she did her first Xterra World Championships outside of Hawaii. Obviously, she didn't do the one last year that was in Italy, but this year she raced there, and big smiling face. She says, "My heart is filled with Xterra Planet, 5th in the world, and fought these tough young Euros to the bitter end. So much gratitude. Thank you." Yeah, she does look very happy with her performance.
Yeah. On to Tri News this week, and it was 100% dominated by the World Triathlon World Championships and the Grand Final. So we had obviously the World Championship Series, the Grand Final being decided. We also had Under-23 World Championships plus the Para World Championship. So it was a lot at stake. We'll start with the Under-23 World Championships, and the women's race was won by Selina Klampt from Germany.
Yeah, and a fellow German, Simon Henselet, took the men's under-23 world title. Things are looking good for the future for Germany. Then there was, of course, the Para-Tri World Champs also happening at the same time in Pontevedra in Spain. They were obviously contested over all 6 categories, men and women. We're going to put the link down below so you can check out the winners of all of those categories. But big wins for Aussie Lauren Parker and Dutchman Gert Skippers on the men's side there.
And then we move on to the elite race for the women's. It was down to between Cassandra Bergrand and Beth Potter for the grand final title, for the overall World Championship title. And basically, whoever beat the other one, as long as they didn't come too far down the field, was going to win overall. And it turned out that it was Beth Potter's day. She ran away with that win, and it was kind of a triple whammy. So she obviously won the individual race. She ended up winning the overall grand final. And with that, on the British selection criteria, she has actually secured her Olympic slot for Paris for next year. So like a good day for Beth Potter. Cassandra Bergrand didn't have the best of days in Pontevedra. She finished 3rd. That was enough to secure her 2nd place overall in the grand final ranking. But it was Kate Waugh, who was last year's under-23 world champion, who had a phenomenal race to finish 2nd in that race. And we'll come over to the world standings in a moment after the men's race.
Yeah, in the men's race, Dorian Connix won the race from France, with the top 3 finishers all actually finishing in exactly the same time. That's how close the sprint finish was. There were actually 3 Frenchmen in the top 4 of that race, which was very impressive. Connix actually started the day in 5th on the series rankings, and he was everyone's rank outsider to actually take the World Series title today, because any one of those 4 guys in front of him just had to have a decent day, and he was not going to get there. However, he did it very impressively. Unfortunately, the top 2 on those series rankings, Hayden Wild and Alex Yee, did not have a very good day. Both of them had very poor swims. Hayden Wild then compounded his bad swim by dropping his swim cap as he ran out from the water. It wasn't like he didn't notice that he dropped it, though. He dropped it, he kicked it, and then instead of stopping to pick it up and losing a second or 2, he just left it there. And obviously then they had to give him a 15-second penalty for leaving equipment outside of his box. And so he had to serve that penalty later on, which definitely cost him. He did run his way back up to 9th after fighting all day, but yeah, he would have been even higher up if he had just picked up the swim cap, which was a very weird decision, but the heated battle and all that. Meanwhile, Alex Yee, who really was the nailed-on favourite to take the World Series title, just had a really shocker of a day. He had a really bad swim. He was about 51 seconds down out of the swim, in 51st place, and then he didn't even have a particularly good run after working really hard on the bike to try and get back into contention. He didn't really get back into contention, stayed in that 3rd group the whole day, and then the 29th place finish meant he dropped 4 spots on the World Series ranking for his day. But yeah, the day belonged to Dorian Connix, who took the win ahead of Germans Tim Helweg, with Pierre Lecour in third. Leo Berger, the third Frenchman, in fourth place, and Lasse Lurs, also from Germany, in fifth. So French and German domination on the men's side there.
Yeah, and then if we have a quick look at how that meant that the overall series championships ended for the women, as we said, it was Beth Potter ahead of Cassandra Beaugrand, so those two actually swapped in their standings. Emma Lombardi of France remained in third position, which she was going into this race. Taylor Spivey managed to stay in fourth place, and Sophie Coldwell, with an impressive performance, moved up 4 slots to finish fifth overall.
Yeah, and then on the men's side for the Grand Series, for the series final, Dorian Connex, as we said, jumped up 4 spots from fifth to take the title for the year. Hayden Wild managed to hold on to that second place with his hard-fought 9th place on the day. Leo Berger jumped up 1 spot to third to finish on the podium for the series. Vasco Veloza dropped down 1 spot. Frustrating for him, because that actually means he doesn't secure his Olympic spot that day. And Alex Yee obviously had a not such good day and dropped down 4 spots to fifth in the series.
Well, we've touched on it already with some of those results, but the Olympic qualification is very much well underway, and every nation has slightly different criteria, and obviously there's outright ways that athletes can qualify. So we're going to try and sort of give you some of the headlines through that. So for Great Britain, they have a pretty strict criteria, and in fact it had to be a podium at the test event in Paris and at this grand final, which amazingly Beth Potter did and won both. So she has stamped her ticket to Paris. She is sorted. However, there's obviously only 2 more slots, so only maximum of 3 per nation, which means that for the Great Britain women, there is a bit of a battle going on. We've obviously seen Kate Waugh win the silver in the grand final. We've seen Sophie Coldwell win the Yokohama World Triathlon Series. We've also got Georgia Taylor-Brown, who is the Olympic silver medalist from the last Olympic Games. So one of those is not actually going to make it to the Games, which is pretty harsh.
Brutal. Yeah, watch this space. Meanwhile, the Germans have a different qualifying criteria, and they've already secured their entire women's team for the Olympics. They've all got their spots and no one else can enter into it. The German team will consist of Laura Lindemann and Nina Eim, who both qualified at the Paris test event already. And now Lisa Tersch, with her 4th place at this event, will round out that German Olympic women's team. Of course, they all have to keep their ranking up to actually get into the Olympic team, but they've all stamped their tickets. So German team is finalised.
Yeah, another athlete who has secured her slot, which was more of a race, I think, against other athletes as opposed to athletes from her nation, is Rachel Klammer. So she finished 5th. She needed a top 8 at this race, and she'll be going and wearing the Dutch flag.
Yeah, and then Emma Lombardi, who is 3rd in the series, missed out on locking in her Olympic place at the grand final. After finishing 4th in Paris, all she needed to do was a medal in Pontevedra, top 3, and she finished 6th. So she didn't secure that. But she should be okay, because really the French only have 3 women who are really in contention for those spots. It's Cassandra Beaugrand, Leonie Perriot, and herself, Emma Lombardi. So all 3 of them should be okay, again, assuming they can keep their rankings up.
Yeah, unlike on the men's side for the French team, where it really is a battle. So the 1st and 2nd place, actually, Dorian Connex of France and then Tim Helvig of Germany have secured their places from that. But then also the bronze medalist, Pierre Lecour, who actually finished 4th at the test event, so missed out on his slot there, has now secured his place from that result.
Yeah, meanwhile, on the German side, Lasse Lurs was the next man to qualify. He's finished 5th, so therefore he's in that German team, and he'll be the 2nd man behind Helwig on that German team.
For Australia, Matt Hauser's the first Australian to secure his slot. He managed a top 8, but only just. He was only 5 seconds ahead of Tyler Misselchuk, so just getting into.
Yeah, meanwhile, there were some men who did miss out just. Been pipped to the podium, Leo Berger, who got 4th, just missed. If he was on that podium, he would have been in, but he's not, so he's going to have to do some more work next year. Lasse Nygaard-Priester for the German team could have completed the men's German team too if he had finished in the top 8. Unfortunately, he finished 11th, so just narrowly missed out on completing the entire men's and women's German team there. And also Vasco Veloza, who needed to finish, if he had finished in the top 3 on the series points, which is fairly unique for Portugal, he would have been in for sure for next year. As it stands, he dropped to 4th on the series points on the day, and so he's going to have some more work to do next year, but also he should be okay in getting that qualification, but he could have had it all done already.
Yeah, it's all pretty brutal. And we're saying about whether athletes are qualified or not. Obviously, there's still the world ranking, and that they might well be very much secure and safe within that, but you don't know until much later down the line. So it's the athletes who've secured that slot basically know, as long as they stay healthy and don't get injured, that they can now start focusing on the game. So it's a big advantage.
Yeah, as we said, all the federations have their own criteria. A lot of them do leave it to subjective selection later on, and that could be as late as like May or June next year before we actually know who's going to be racing. So they'll be keeping a close eye on all of the athletes. You do have to have a certain height ranking in the world before you're even allowed to be considered to be selected. But after that, it's pretty much subjective up to the federations. And now it's time for What the Tech. And Shimano have recalled 760,000 cranksets. Yeah, this is not good news for Shimano, but if you are one of the affected ones, you do need to go and check those cranks if you have any Shimano cranks. So essentially, the cranks may delaminate, which means they may separate and come apart. And Shimano have actually recalled 4,519 incidents, including a few broken bones from this happening. So they've issued a recall for all of these cranks. You have to basically take your crank to get checked. You don't actually have to just pull it off your bike and not use it. But there are apparently 760,000 of these 11-speed Holotech road cranksets that need to be inspected, and then potentially, they say 1% of them may be replaced. It's pretty worrying if you have been riding this for a while.
It is, isn't it? It's a bit of a gamble. We've just had that sort of moment of looking up the code. So we suggest having Google, and you'll find basically the serial number that you need and then the code on that will tell you whether yours, doesn't mean it definitely is a problem, but it then needs to go and get checked.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do. We just did it right now with Mark and Heather's bike, who's sitting here in the set. Heather's bike passed, no problem. Mark's bike, we checked the serial number and the little, there's a couple of letters printed on there, and Mark is going to have to take his in to have it checked.
Yeah. We'll give him the good news when he's back from holiday. It's now time to announce our new competition winner. So for the last few weeks on the show, we have had competition open to win the new Kickr Move, which is basically a kicker that moves forwards and backwards. We haven't yet had a try on it, but it does look pretty cool. It's a rather exciting new product. And there is one lucky winner. And we do have the announcement right now. It is Jagruti Rathod. So congratulations, Jagruti. We will be in touch and you will be the lucky recipient of one of these brand new pieces of kit. All right, now on to race news, or the rest of race news. And there was another World Championships. It was the Xterra World Champs held in Italy for the second year running, which we touched on earlier. But they also had, for the first time, a new 12-race series, or World Cup race series that they concluded at this race. And for the women's, the actual World Championships was won by Salem Bouillon of France, ahead of Alice Patisse, also from France, and then Didi Diedrichs from the Netherlands. And interestingly, the World Series final, Alice Patisse came out on top, just ahead of Salem Bouillon, so they had sort of a swapped position, so to speak, and it was Loan Duvoisson from Switzerland who finished third in the overall series.
Yep, and then on the men's side, it's a little bit easier to read up because the same three who finished in the podium on the day also finished in the podium on the World Series. So Arthur Series taking the win there and also taking first in the series. Felix Faurissia from France taking the second place on the day and also second place in the series. And Jens Emil Sloth Nielsen from Denmark taking third on the day and also third in the series.
Oh, well done, James. We also had 70.3 Augusta, and that was won by Paula Finley, which is cool to see because she was, I think, feeling a little bit lost after 70.3 Worlds, wasn't even sure what races she was going to do next. So great to see that she's not only back racing, but also back winning. Tamara Jewett was second and Jackie Herring third in that race.
Yeah, and then on the men's side, Mika Nutt upset the apple cart a little bit because everyone was looking forward to a big showdown between Jackson Laundry and Lionel Sanders. And Mika Nutt, who's coming back from injury, surprised them all and took the win there. Jackson Laundry held on for second and Lionel Sanders came in third.
Yeah, what was the battle going on there? There was some food eating competition I saw, but didn't really look into.
Didn't see that. Must have been an after race thing, I think.
I'll have to read more on that one. We also had 70.3 Cozumel. The women's race was won by Hannah Berry. Interesting, Sarah Crowley is racing 2 weeks ahead of Kona. She was second, and Guritzfrads Laradel was third. Yeah,
on the men's side, Thomas Rodriguez took the win there ahead of Luciano Tacconi and Justin Reel from the USA in third.
And then we also had Challenge San Remo, and that was won by Magda Nieuwholt on the women's side.
Yeah, and on the men's side, Maximilian Sperl took the win there. And that's it for our race news for this week.
Okay, it's time to take a look at your photos that you've sent in over the last week or so. But before we share those, we are coming into a new month next week. It's going to be October. So therefore, we are changing the theme of the photos we would love to see. And this is James's idea, which is quite unusual because James isn't British.
It's unusual that I have ideas.
No, it's not unusual that you have ideas. This idea that you've come up with is unusual for someone who's not British.
I think it is quite understandable for someone who's not British.
Share the idea.
I think for October, we are asking for your photos of you enduring the weather, the changing weather, the rain, maybe the first snow, maybe whatever it might be as the weather changes. And even if you're in the southern hemisphere, I know spring is sprung down there, but still, the weather can be pretty changeable at this time of year. And of course, people are still training. So send us your photos of you enduring the weather, whether it be just a nice gentle breeze or whether it be a hurricane or something in between. Let us know. Send us your photos. We're looking for those for the whole of October. You enjoying the weather, whichever it might be. But we have a few post-race smiles to get to before we get to that for September. So this one from Thomas, 70.3 Knock Heist. He said, picture taken after finishing my first triathlon, was much faster than anticipated, a 5:34, which made me really happy. Picture taken with my biggest fan, my mom, sporting her custom supporter t-shirt. Oh, that's very cute. Very cute, yeah. Well done.
Like it. Now we have David, and this one I feel needs a little bit more explanation, but it says it's at the finish line in Nice, I presume at the Ironman World Championships. Yes, it is from the logo I can see. It says, after completing the race, my son was able to medal me at the end.
Oh, what a bonus, getting a medal from your...
Yeah.
He must have volunteered. But
that's what I'm guessing,
He's probably stood there for 6 hours giving medals to everyone else.
Just like so keeping a look of like, is it?
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Then we had this one from Joe, from Emilia Romagna, 70.3. She said, I raced my first ever 70.3 in Italy on Sunday, was so excited and grateful to be racing. I smiled the whole way through. There isn't a single photo where I'm not smiling, and so much so that my face cheeks were the sorest and most tender muscle in my body on the second day.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I messed up my nutrition, so not really practicing during training, not following the proper training plan, and had a stitch until 18K, but apparently she was still smiling. So she's on to the big next one because the tri bug has bitten her and she's really looking to do her next 70.3 in 3 to 6 months. Well done, Joe, and good luck for the next one.
Good luck, yeah. Well, now we have one from Dave in Lanzarote. So this is obviously a little while ago, but he says this photo was taken just after leaving the medical tent at the end of the Ironman. I mean, he's smiling a lot, so he's obviously left it. He then says, I was feeling terrible at mile 16 on the run, managed to get to the finish and straight to the medical tent. 30 minutes on a drip and I felt a lot better.
Oh, amazing what a drip can do for you. Look at that smile.
Yeah.
I wonder what they put in that drip. And then we had Artis from the Ironman World Champs in Nice in France, and he actually sent us a photo before when they qualified of them in their
I remember those
cowboy
pictures,
hats. Yeah, and he said, completed the Ironman World Championships in Nice, France. Running the marathon leg in a cowboy hat is a blast. Posing with Sam Ledlow after the race, and when he asked for a cowboy hat to wear in a photo, you give him one. Thanks, Julian. And he swapped hats with Sam Ledlow. Got him to wear a cowboy hat.
I wonder if that was a clean hat or the one that he'd run the marathon in. Anyway, Sam's still smiling. And finally, this one from Nils. Finished in 4:55 at my first triathlon. Was checking my watch the entire time on the run, see if I could make it. Couldn't believe I did. And yeah, that explains that expression on the finish line.
Yeah, he looks pretty happy. Well done, Nils. Well, that's it for your happy finish line photos. Now we're looking for your enduring the weather photos, or enjoying the weather photos if you do enjoy the change in weather at this time of year.
I think you should set us off with a photo next week, James.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. I'll go out in the weather if I have to get a photo for you guys. Yeah, send them in. Use the uploader on screen right now or down in the link below.
Say what? Okay, we've had a huge amount of comments on last week's show. And I've only picked out one because they're quite divided. It was really interesting, actually, reading all of your comments. This was around the disqualification of Marjolaine Pierre in a race after she fainted and had some outside assistance. And I'm not going to go into it all, but I'll just like this comment from JMD Kovas, who says, I think help should be allowed when the athlete is struggling or having health issues. And instead of disqualification, just do a time penalty proportional to the time of assistance. And that was kind of the general feel that people got. But there was some interesting conversation on either side, which I won't go into, but I would suggest going to read those comments is if you are interested.
That conversation can run and run and
can.
run. Yeah. We also made a 5K world record attempt, our team, last week. You can watch that video on the channel right now. And there were some comments under that. Dennis Worth Music said, well done, nice try. Unbelievable how one person can run that speed by herself. And that was pretty much the takeaway from that video. And in fact, we did 14:07, which not only missed Faith Kipyegon's record, but missed the new world record by 7 seconds. So, yeah, it is pretty unbelievable how fast those ladies are running. Chasing the Clouds also commented, great idea and good job, GTN teams. Next, please do the women's marathon record, which was just set in Berlin. We mentioned that earlier. But at a 400-meter track with laps, and see who can do more laps or something like that. Sounds like the gauntlet has been thrown there, Heather.
Yeah, I know. I think we might do some training and maybe get a slightly bigger team.
If you look at the marathon world record pace, it's not actually that much slower than what we were running in that 5K. Like, it is incredibly fast.
I mean, that's quite a lot of 200 meters I'd have to do.
Yeah, exactly. Watch the space for that one. We're not making any promises.
Yeah. But if you do want to watch the current world record video, that is on screen now. You can click on that. And obviously, James is now back from Uzbekistan in one piece. And the video is coming on that very soon. I'm quite excited to see that.
Pretty cool event. So watch out for that video coming out on the channel this weekend.